Um, again, my name is Will Maynor. I'm an MEP specialist at Microdesk. I've been working here for about 12 and a half years now, doing training, tech support, implementation services, application development. And today we're going to talk about kind of a collection of tools that we've developed internally to help us in our own process and projects that we have kind of shared out with the world now on the Autodesk App Store. And this is the Microdesk ribbon bar. Our primary focus, so internally as an MEP person, a lot of the project work that we end up doing is MEP related. So that's reflected on some of the tools that are available on the toolbar. Having said that, based on the enthusiasm, based on the number of downloads we get, we plan to expand the functionality of this toolbar with some of those tools that I mentioned earlier that we've got internally. We kind of consider them in a beta, kind of a beta mode. But again, based on the enthusiasm, we hope to share more of these going forward. And the question always comes up, why hasn't Microdesk had a ribbon bar in the past? And for anybody who knows us, Microdesk's bread and butter is in training and knowledge transfer. So really our goal is all about making our customers better at what they do. So while we're sharing some of the tools that we make internally, really this hopefully serves as a demonstration that, we provide application development training classes. We provide Revit training classes. So anything you see here, the things that we've developed are a teachable skill. And if you have ideas for widgets that you'd like to develop, we can help you with that too. At the same time, we've got a world-class application development team who's also an Autodesk partner who, if you guys have an idea for a custom application or a widget in order to, automate a tedious task, maybe like project setup or updating backgrounds when you get updates, those are things that our development team can help out with as well. So without further ado, I think I'd like to get going. And as an example, I like using plumbing pipe because one of the most common criticisms we get about, the most common criticism that we hear from new users in Revit is that sloped piping is very difficult. And I'd like to disagree with that statement. I think Revit is probably the strongest 3D software that I've worked with, and that includes fabrication software as well for modeling any type of pipe or duct, but that includes sloped pipe or duct. And I'm going to demonstrate that today. The tools that we've developed really aren't intended to reinvent the wheel. They're all based off of the assumption that the tools inside of Revit that ship out of the box actually work extremely well, but with a couple very simple enhancements, we can make your process much better. The other concept here is kind of as a project manager watching people model pipe, again, internally here at Microdesk, one observation that I've made has always been that our users spend a lot of time toggling between open views, cutting sections, goofing around with all of the visibility and graphic settings to make it show just the things they want to see, changing detail levels, changing view ranges, and getting things to show up. And all of that additional work that we put in modeling pipe and duct doesn't get us closer to the finish line. It doesn't put work on paper. And if we could eliminate that work from our workflow, then we can find a much greater efficiency. And that's the idea here, is that we want to create a couple simple tools that will allow us to stay in a single, in this case a 3D isometric view, to do as much of the work as we can as possible. And we're going to do that with one of the most probably difficult systems to create, like a sloped sanitary system. So here what I've got is some below ground cast iron hub and spigot. And maybe I want to drop some floor drains in. Maybe I don't want to hit a keyboard shortcut. That opens up a previous view. Maybe we want to drop some floor drains in, pipe it up, connect it to an existing main, and add some vent. So what I'm going to do is use the out-of-the-box create similar command to place another floor drain in my model. And the floor drain has intelligent connectors on it that I can connect plumbing pipe to. And there's a way to draw it out of the box, but maybe we can do it a little bit simpler using the Microdesk toolbar. We've got a command called bloom, which allows me to click on any piece of mechanical equipment or plumbing fixture, and it'll extend duct or pipe out a relative distance in all directions. Now that duct or pipe can't know the pipe type that I want to draw, so what I'll use is Revit's out-of-the-box match properties command to take an existing pipe and turn the pipe into what I want to draw. So now in this case I'm drawing P sanitary hub and spigot. I can use the connector on the end to draw pipe, apply a downward slope of 1/8 of an inch equals a foot, and I'm going to approach the main. At this point I probably don't want an elbow. We might want a P-trap. So what I can do is I can find an existing P-trap, and again I'm going to use the create similar command to drop one in. We've got a command up here called move, connect, and align, and what that'll do is it'll allow me to click on one piece of, well, it could be pipe, it could be duct, it could be mechanical equipment or plumbing fixture, anything with an MEP connector. And I click on a second object with an MEP connector, and what it'll do is move the second object to the first, and it'll rotate and orient the second object so that the two align. And with that P-trap, I can use Revit's rotate command to bring it around to an angle that I need. And now, I wouldn't want to use the move, connect, align on the P-trap because this connection doesn't have a slope associated to it. But my branch line does. So we've got another command that's abbreviated as MOCO, and that simply stands for move and connect. It does the same thing as the last command does, but without that align function, so that I can preserve the slope, in this case 1/8 of an inch equals a foot. And now if I want to connect it into the branch, Revit's out-of-the-box extend command is unfortunately not going to work for me in this case, because these two pipes would have to align at a very specific location in 3D space. But what I could do is I could use the create similar command. I can snap to the main. I pause for a second, and then I hit the space bar in order for Revit to associate the offset of that location point. I'm going to slope up at 1/8 of an inch equals a foot, and I'm going to kind of approach the same direction as my branch there. Then what I could do is I could delete the pipe that I drew off of the main. I go back to that move and connect command, and I click on the that combination Y and 1/8 bend, and I click on the branch, and then the two get connected. I might want to draw some 2-inch vent pipe coming off of this. So what I'll do is I'll use my create similar command again on the main. I'm going to change my diameter of pipe to 2 inches. And now I'm thinking I might want to come off at a vent. Maybe I want to roll into the crown of that pipe at a 45-degree angle. So the easiest way for me to do that is to draw a slope up. 12 inches over 12 inches gives me a 45-degree slope. I can click on the main. I hit the space bar to make sure that I inherit the offset at that location point. Well, that resets my diameter, so I'm going to have to fix that real quick. And then I'm going to come right off at a 90-degree angle. After I click a point, Revit applies that 45-degree slope. And now I've got a vent T coming off. Well, we've got a vent combination Y. I would have liked maybe a T in this case. So I'm going to switch to the family. We can come now and I can continue drawing pipe. Maybe now for my vent, I'm going to turn the slope off. And what am I going to do? I'm going to kind of come in this direction. And draw pipe. And in this case, I'm getting an error message from my elbow. So we're coming in at a 12-inch, 12-inch. Draw pipe. If we're sloping up at it, there we go. We'll give it a slope like we probably should. And then what I could do is I could delete this out. We're going to use our move and connect command again. Connect those two fittings together. And maybe I could even, move and connect again. Connect those two guys together. And that's probably what a proper configuration out in the field would look like. We've got tools for drawing elbows if we want. So for example, the commands are going to assume that I'm looking down towards the open end of the pipe. I could click on elbow left, for example. And if I click on the end of this pipe, it's going to assume that in the direction I'm looking towards the open end, it's going to go left in that direction. It'll draw pipe and apply the slope of the pipe that I clicked on. And I can extend that out, and Revit's going to do a very good job of maintaining that slope for me. So eventually what I'm thinking is I probably have another vent line which I need to come off at a 45-degree angle. So let me just come up here. I'm going to pull this guy up, right-click on the connector and draw. Whoops. Make sure I get the connector. Draw a pipe. And now what I'm going to do is slope down, and I'm thinking I'm going to come down at a 45-degree angle. I'll get a fitting something like that. Maybe what I want to do is, at this point I'm thinking I'm above ground, so I'm going to switch this to something like a P sanitary wise. So this will give us something that looks more like a, a no-hub connection. Then I could come back and I could use that Bloom command again, and Bloom's going to work on fittings as well as it does with plumbing fixtures. I could stretch this down, and then I can use move and connect to attach those two guys together. Well, it's going to do its best to stretch things out, but maybe now's not an appropriate time because you can kind of see that Y branch is going to get too short if I were to move that fitting down. So why don't I do this? I'm going to go back to the Microdesk toolbar, and I've got a command for elbow down, which if I click on the end of that pipe will do something like that. Maybe I want these fittings to connect together, so I'll delete those guys, move and connect, and now we're getting something that's starting to look like a vent pipe. And let's see if I can delete that system out of there. Well, we'll leave it as green for now. We've got a situation like this where in reality what I need is an elbow to connect this pipe to that guy, and I think you'll see in a second what I intend to do here. I'll come back and I'm going to use an elbow up command to put an elbow on the end of this line. I'm going to delete out the piece of pipe that came with the elbow. No, let me do this the smart way. I'm going to delete the pipe that's coming off of the elbow down. Then I'll use the move connect command to click on that Husky O-clamp. That was part of my routing preference. Then I'm going to click on that little pipe branch that came up. And the command's going to do its best to move everything over. You notice we got a slight jog there, so I do want to be careful about that if I'm drawing sloped pipe. Let me see if we can do this a little bit differently. My vent pipe here is really better off without a slope. So what I can do is use my elbow left again. This time the branch comes in without a slope. I can elbow up. And now use that move and connect to connect that coupling. And now everything moved without jogging the pipe system. So our slope over here is maintained. You see, even though I used that move and connect command with the sanitary T, everything preserved its slope. Now I should be able to use the move and connect again. Move and connect. Whoops, did I do the wrong direction? Move and connect. This guy's in the right place. The pipe's going to come down, and now everything fits together. We might have to go through our schedules and delete out some of the systems. We've got some color mismatches. Um, but I've got just a keyboard shortcut assigned to that, so I'm going to clean that up real quick. So then in this way, we're able to create kind of like a sophisticated piping combination with proper slopes without having to cut sections or find where things align. All of these tools were going to work with ductwork as well. So if I was going to draw some duct, some tap duct, so it looks like we've got some miter. We do an elbow right. Again, assumes that we're looking down the shaft of the towards the open end. So if I was going to go and do an elbow right again, it'll do something like this. So let's go and draw a couple branches, and we'll put some takeoffs. Okay. Autodesk's out-of-the-box extend command will get all of my takeoffs on the duct. And this is to demonstrate that we've got another command here called flip multiple. And what that does is it allows me to first create a selection set of all of the objects that I want to flip. Click on flip multiple, and they'll all go in the opposite direction. This tool was originally intended for hosted families. In other words, if I wanted to place a roof drain in this project, and maybe we didn't have a roof level yet, we wanted to place all of our drains on a work plane. And based on how the work planes are drawn, you know, it's very possible that all of your hosted families might come in upside down. And while there's a flip button for each one of them one at a time, I would be able to select all of those roof drains, flip multiple, and get them all in the right direction. And then if I wanted to keep working, then I could use that bloom command. The enter key is previous command. So I could go and I could draw all of the pipe that's attached. I could put the elbows or any type of trap we needed in there and use some move and connect. If we wanted to work in a floor plan, there are going to be cases where we do need to cut sections. So we've got a command here called pipe and duct section, which allows me to click on a pipe or duct, and it'll cut a section that's parallel to the pipe or duct we click on with a very narrow view range. Also, if I open up that section, it's going to limit the depth or the height of that crop region to match the floor relative to the duct we're on, and then a short distance up above it. So we're spending less time cutting a section and stretching our limits up and down. Okay. We've got a command called sum parameters, which is a handy widget sometimes if we've got a collection of objects and we want to figure out just very quickly on the fly, what's the square footage of these 4 rooms, for example? The command will go through and it'll identify all of the numerical parameters of the objects in our selection set and sum up what the total is. The total length of the selected duct is 18 foot 8 inches. And the total area, or maybe that's kind of silly. Maybe the total width is kind of silly, but you're using the tool for an intended purpose, and you would then know better what property you're trying to sum up than the tool would. The tool, in broad strokes, is just going to shoot from the hip and sum up every numerical parameter that's common to everything you've got selected. We've got a command called parameter pusher, and the intent of this command is to solve a problem where our company has a standard set of schedules. Like, for example, maybe we need to place some crack units in the project. So I'm going to place a piece of mechanical equipment, and what do I have in here? Air handling unit. Okay. I might need to give my air handling unit a parameter so it's going to show up inside of a schedule. So maybe in this case, we're filtering by a parameter called equipment type. That's going to be different company to company. And then I've got an air conditioning or a crack unit schedule that's going to show all of my crack units. But our schedule requires a specific list of shared parameters that are in our shared parameter file. And that crack unit, maybe we just, maybe we just downloaded it from, I'm trying to think of who might be making that. Would that be an Envirotech? I'm kind of spitballing. But in any case, I've got content that came from a manufacturer or a vendor that needs the parameters to work in my schedule. So for that, we've got the parameter pusher tool, which works if I've got a schedule active. It shows me a list of all of the parameters that the schedule needs to work properly, as well as all of the families that are listed and filtered inside of that schedule. So then I can come down here and I can say, well, I've only got a small handful of parameters that are missing. So maybe I'll just go in and I want to add the capacity, the refrigerant, electrical voltage, and the airflow direction. I'll accept the change. Now the family is going to have to, the add-in is kind of round-tripping that family back and forth to the family editor. But now you see all of those parameters that we needed. They got filled in with kind of like just a default value, but now at least the parameter exists. So I could come in here and I could say, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So the intent, again, is that, through a normal workflow, we're downloading pumps from Bell and Gossett. We're downloading, water heaters from CEI or something, or cook fans. And all of that equipment needs parameters to work correctly in my company's schedule. So this command is going to save you the trouble over, other tools that require you to select from a list what type of, what parameters you need. Okay. And I'm just going to go back to my 3D view real quick. And luckily, we've actually gotten through the tools very quickly today. So this is great news. I'm not going to waste too much of your time. But if any of you have questions, please punch them in. And you'll see on the dashboard for GoToMeeting, there's a place where you can enter a question. And maybe while I'm waiting, I can kind of mention some other questions that we've had in the past webinars. So up until very recently, the Microdesk ribbon has only been available for Revit 2018. We now have a 2017 and a 2019 version. Those are all available for download for free on the Autodesk App Store. So again, as an Autodesk consultant, our primary goal is to, how to describe this, cheerlead the software. We're trying to expand industry adoption. So the intent here is that we've developed some tools internally. We want to share as much as we can, and then we want to demonstrate the value of the software. Again, our feeling has always been that it works extremely well out of the box. We don't want to reinvent the workflow, but we just want to value engineer it a little bit, streamline it. And we think that's accomplished with some very basic tools. And again, having said that, you guys might find that, hey, there are some tasks based on the style of project that we work on that can be very tedious and could require some type of automation. So then you could come and talk to us, you could talk to our development team, and we could scope out the level of effort for automating a project like that. We could provide you with an API training class, and this is something that we've done for 5 years now, in which we can take laymen, maybe, with no programming background, spend a day or two getting your feet wet in .NET and C#, and then 2 or 3 days using the Revit API. And then based on the type of tool you want to develop, we've been able to develop widgets very similar to the ones we've been able to demonstrate during the training classes. All right. So I'm not showing any more questions, so maybe I'll wrap it up here. And in the final note, the level of development that we commit to the Microdesk toolbar is going to be a function of the enthusiasm and the feedback that we get from the folks who download it. So if you guys have comments, good, bad, any form of engagement that we have with you is going to give us, how to describe this, the political capital internally to continue developing these tools and sharing more of the things that we have internally that right now maybe aren't quite ready for prime time, but with a couple more hours of polishing, we would be happy to share it with the world. All right. So on that note, I'm going to wrap things up, and I'm going to let you guys enjoy the rest of your afternoon. All right. Thank you very much.